Welcome back to the Skift Travel Podcast. I'm Skift's editor-in-chief, Sarah Kopit, joined as always by Skift's head of research, Seth Porco. Hey, Seth, how you doing?
Hey, Sarah. Great to be here, as always.
Yes, so today we are going to talk about the phenom that is the solo woman traveler, the one that's over 50 and is simply tired of waiting for all of you to get your act together to go on vacation. And we have two fantastic guests, Lee Barnes of Intrepid Travel and Carolyn Ray from Journey Woman, to get into all of it with us. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Please don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. And if you're enjoying the show, please rate us 5 stars and leave us a positive review so we can spread the word about the pod. So, Carolyn, first to you. You guys just did a survey with some amazing stats in it. You found that 70 to 34% of women were feeling ignored in the travel industry. That is huge. What's going on? Where are we failing? Where are we failing women? I mean, we don't have enough time, do we? We don't.
What a way to start.
Yeah.
Carolyn, please start us off with politics. What do you think about?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Well, the study that we did just recently was called Invisible No More, the Ageless Adventurous. And that name is very intentional. We did some research 2 years ago that showed us that 70% of women over 50 felt misunderstood or undervalued by the travel industry. This study that we just did, so 2 years later, showed that had improved to 34%. I think what that tells us is older women feel more seen, but the question is, do they feel more understood? Which is what we were trying to look at with this research.
So I guess it's that what are we doing right in the past couple of years then? What has the industry done to improve those numbers?
Well, Journey Woman has been around for 31 years. So we were the first solo travel website for women, started in 1994. So for us, solo travel is not a new trend or a new idea. I think what's happened is in the last maybe 10 years, we've seen more and more what I would call mainstream travel companies and hotels and other, small ships and other parts of the travel industry have started to recognize that there is a real market in terms of solo women and older women. So this is what I mean by saying it's now become almost mainstream solo travel. And if you Google solo travel now, you will see just about every single travel company come up. So it's definitely moved more into the mainstream of travel. It used to be seen as a niche, and I think now it's become much more mainstream, because not just because of the economic impact of women, but also just the way that women travel and I think is different as you get older too, which we can talk more about.
Lee, what's Intrepid up to on this front? Last time you and I talked, we got all into it. It's very exciting.
Yeah, look, I think a couple of big changes that we've seen and what we've been doing is not just like representing women in our advertising, and it's been the shift on just promoting women, but also looking at how you work with women of 35 plus to build and create great products. And I think that's probably been the biggest shift that we've taken. A lot of other companies have, and why we've seen a big move away from women feeling like they weren't represented, because now companies and brands are actually partnering, listening, and not just telling. And through that, we've seen amazing changes in product. And by listening, we're seeing that women want to travel intergenerationally. They don't just want to be traveling with older women. They want to travel with women from all walks of life. They want purpose built into their experience. They want to understand what it's like for a woman to be on an experience. They want to understand what it's like to live in that country. What are the cultural components that go into being there? And through that, more companies are designing great experiences that cater for women. And we've seen, disproportionate growth of women over 50 traveling with Intrepid. That category is growing faster than the brand, upwards of almost 20% of that cohort of customers that are traveling. And women are just not wanting it. Women 50 plus, it's just not your meat and potatoes trips. They're wanting to have adventure, and they're wanting to go out and see the world. So, The products that we're seeing people, women wanting to travel on is things like Sri Lanka, Peru, Morocco, and wanting to have these unique experiences. So I think the big shift here has been from just been putting on the ads and the nice to have and look good and attract the customer to bringing them into the design and making sure you're making products that customers and women want and they're proud to go on and they're excited. It's not rocket science. It's like any other cohort, but that shift has happened. And we're seeing great products that women of all ages and disproportionately women over 50 traveling on. So I think that's been the big shift.
I love it because I can just imagine, like, I spoke from the heart at the top. Like, you can just kind of feel it in the air, like of women from my generation, maybe like my mom's generation, people a little bit older than me. It's, a lot of times in the past, it always has been like, where is the family going to go? And I'm doing what the family wants. I'm doing what other people want. And it really is pretty recent where you hear, a lot of women going, you know what? Like, I'm just going to do what I want. And it's okay. You guys can stay home. I'm going to get a few of my friends and we're going to go hiking in Peru because I want to. And
Right.
That's fantastic. And is that what you're seeing, that it's a lot of like friend groups or people coming by themselves? Like, how do you define that solo women traveler?
Caroline, do you want to go? Do you want to go, Caroline? And I can jump in with some color
Yeah,
after maybe what we're seeing.
if I could, I think for me, the word solo is about independence. So it's not necessarily whether you're traveling solo in a group or whether you're traveling on your own. And from my perspective, I'm not fussed about the terminology. I just want to see women out traveling. And whether they travel in a group, they should just do whatever they feel safe and comfortable with. And if they feel safe in a group, go in a group. But the point about being independent and empowered is you are making your own financial decisions. You are the one making the decision. And we all know that women make most travel decisions. We've heard up to 85%. Our research was even higher in this segment, I think it was 92%. So we know that as we get older, as women, we are making our own decisions and we are independent and we are empowered. And to me, that is the most important thing. And travel, however, suits your lifestyle, your budget, your preference. But the most important thing is if you're going to get out there, just go. Just go.
The safety thing is so important. I think we've seen that if they feel safe, women will go anywhere. And I think that safety and trust point of view, again, has been a big change. And there's more products that enable women to feel safe and self-determine on where they're going. So I think that change has probably, again, been one of the biggest shifts in partnering and going with companies that give that safety. But I think onto the initial point is you're seeing category of women in all walks of life grow. Yeah, it's, hey, I just want to go to Machu Picchu. I'm not waiting for my kids. I'm not waiting for my husband. I'm not waiting for my friends. I'm bloody going and I'm going to do it. And I've got the money and I'm making the call, right through to, friends getting together and family. So I don't think it's one, I think there's both of these different things and it's always multi-layered, but I just think there's more women over 50 taking control of their travel decisions. And that doesn't matter if they're solo, with their family or with their friends. And I think we're also seeing this generation have access to more funds, are able to travel more often and be a bigger driver in these decisions. So safety is the really big thing. And all the research and all the feedback we get from our customers, it always comes back to safety and trust.
So can I push you then a little bit on something? Because this is something that was in my mind as we were having this conversation, which is that you're going to build tours and travel for female travelers, in some cases solo female travelers. How much of it is, like what you were saying at the top, Lee, a marketing issue in terms of letting women know that this is out there, and how much of it is a product issue in terms of the trips that we have been offering in the past were not right for this demographic? And what do we? Yeah, how do you think about that? From how much of it is visibility and marketing, and how much of it is actual trip design?
Oh, look, that's classic marketing. You need both. If they don't know about you, they can't book you. Like, brutally, like, you have the world's greatest product. If no one knows about it, really hard to buy it. So you've got to get out and talk and represent and market and spend money in acquiring those customers, because if they don't know about it, they're not going to buy it. And then if the product isn't great and isn't doing everything you say it on the tin, you're not going to have repeat. You're not going to have word of mouth, and that product is going to go away very quickly. And so we keep trying to push the needle here to make sure we're developing new, exciting products. We launched a Saudi Arabia product. It almost sold out immediately within weeks. We've had to put on more and more departures. But we built up years of creating women's expeditions, so customers knew about it. We developed a great product. As soon as that product went on, they had that product market fit. it sold because customers and women over 50 or anyone in that cohort had heard about Intrepid because we'd been doing the work for 15, 20 years in this space. So you need to be doing both. And it's not a magic bullet either way, because fundamental from a marketing point of view, they need to know you, and then your product needs to be great to live in long into the future.
Yeah, because the secret here is about repeat business too, right? And women make decisions based on word of mouth. And if you're not delivering, as you say, Lee, on the promise you're putting out in the market, then you're not going to get recommended. And we hear these discussions all the time at Journey Woman about women that have gone on trips and have been disappointed or have had safety issues or, all kinds of things. And it's a very, I think, as the data, the same report, Invisible and the More, also showed the way that women make decisions is through word of mouth and recommendation, and they really don't buy into traditional classic marketing, so advertising and that kind of thing. They're looking for more authentic storytelling, from travel writers and from people that have actually been on the trips.
Women over 50 have the least amount of marketing touch points. So most
Yes,
other customers will
less than
cost you
10.
more. Yeah, less than 10, which
Yes.
I was shocked by. So it really backs up that point you said, that the word of mouth and non-channels. I was like, for me, when I read it, I was like, oh, it just sees, to your point, Seth, that product generator. And super interesting takeaway.
So we're talking a lot. You're saying we're hearing that marketing is important. Let me ask, maybe I'll throw this out. This might be a controversial question. Do you think that travel brands are like secretly afraid of looking uncool by marketing to older women? Would that be a tough thing to put on the top of in front of your glossy catalog?
Oh my gosh, it'd be the coolest thing ever. I would love to see more travel brands do that and have some 80-year-old on their website. Like, I can't even think of anyone doing that. And they're out there. The 80-year-olds are looking for women like them. And I would be hard pressed to find one travel website featuring an 85-year-old, really.
We agree on this call. It would be cool. Do you think? What do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think the marketers themselves? What is preventing a marketer from doing that? Why not?
Well,
Yeah, big sigh. Yeah.
I when I was thinking about this interview today, I reflected on my own career, starting off in communications and marketing when I was 25 years old. And, at that time, if you had said to me, oh, you need to be marketing to 50-year-olds, I would have said, what? That's like my parents, my grandparents. I don't really understand that market. I can't relate to it. So I think the first step now is you've got to do research and understand the market. And that's why we did this report, because we have marketing personas in our report that go up to age 85. And I have never seen any kind of research report that did that in travel. So that's number one, like really understanding who you are marketing to, doing your own research, like focus groups, invite some people in, have some discussions, I think it's got to start with that. And I did a panel last year at the International Women in Travel and Tourism conference in London on women over 50. And most of the people in the room were travel to marketers, in their 30s, and their jaws were on the floor at, Alice Morrison, 61 years old, walking across Saudi Arabia, like this is the new older woman. We're adventurous, we're out there. Like, it's totally different from what our parents might have been like, at least my parents.
No, totally. So why do you think it's taken the industry so long to notice this group? I mean, it's like loyal, wealthy, fastest growing segment. I mean, is it just plain old ageism, sexism, laziness? Like, what's going on?
All the isms. Just the understanding of like marketing and what you're actually doing and going after your business is like, I think everyone's long held views of who their customer is compared to the reality. And we all think our customers are actually cooler than they are. And our customers are cooler than they are, and they're also not. It's a spectrum of all these things. And my take is that, as you understand your market and your customer and how big and broad you need to be, you start making different decisions. And I think, we've seen this change happen in a whole number of sectors. Dove have done amazing work in changing, who they use to advertise for their influencers and their models. We've done a lot of work with our ethical marketing guidelines to ensure we're showing people of different walks, shapes, sizes, genders, race, and age. And I think it's about your company values, who you want to attract as a customer, and then that dictates your marketing. And that is continuing to change. Companies are getting more aware of who their customers are. They're trying to grow faster into new pockets. And I think the brands that are doing that, you'll know what customers they're going after, and the ones that aren't, they're just taking a different approach. So I think that this is going to continue to happen in all walks of life. I think there is probably a pushback from a lot of organizations, particularly in the USA, around woke agendas. So I think you'll see brands picking a left or a right lane or a centrist lane. But I just think you'll see more and more companies being more comfortable with this.
Is this a woke topic?
I think anything is at the moment you can get labelled with. So I'll probably get in trouble for saying that word. But I think anything where it's representing different walks of life and doing different things can get challenged at times. And I think we need to push back and keep representing who our customers are, both today and into the future.
Both sides of the aisle of our politicians, Republican and Democrat, they have one thing in common: they're old. So maybe it's not a woke topic; it's a bipartisan topic.
The other thing I think that has changed is longevity. So if you look at the science and the data, we are living longer. We are healthier now than we have ever been. There's a 50-50 split now of people over 50 and under 50. That's never happened before, ever, in the world's history. So those kind of, plus you have societal trends that are happening with I think just overall awareness of age and more like reframing of age that's happening. And look at all the celebrities that are now out there, at 60, 70 years old, that are out there strutting their stuff. I mean, all of that is helping bring more awareness and focus to what age means now, as opposed to 25, 30 years ago.
I think that's a great point, Carolyn, because we do research like, the percentage of Americans who have a passport is now above 50%. 30 years ago, it was under 5%. So I think what you're highlighting is right, that there's sort of this perfect storm moment of people are healthier, they're living longer, they have passports. Like, I totally see what you're saying, that the population is getting older, the population is getting healthier, and the population is more experienced. Like, it does make a ton of sense to me from a demographics perspective.
I'm gonna go out on a tangent here and ask a question because it's just one that I find fascinating. Does the rise of Ozempic and GLP-1s affect this group? Do you hear that at all? Have you heard, like, I'm now, like, going on to the healthier, I'm now fitter than I once was, and I never thought that I would be able to walk over Saudi Arabia, but you know what? I'm taking care of myself. I have this money. I just lost 100 pounds and I'm going to go and do that thing. Do you hear that?
I'll back up Caroline's point before. I don't know if it's because of Ozempic, but they're healthier, they're more adventurous, and the reason we get in our research and feedback customers, the older they are, they're more wanting more adventure travel. Yeah, whether they're going hiking or going to see the gorillas in Rwanda, or go to Antarctica. There's an extra sense of adventure and an actual capacity to do that, whether it's health or finance. I don't know, Sarah, if it's down to Ozempic, but that is very true. There's a bigger appetite for adventure.
Yeah. I wrote an article all about this, and I think it is. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it has something to do with it.
Good. You know more than me. I'll back up.
I do want to try and pin us down on an answer on this, though, because Sarah's answer is Ozempic. I do think what you just said, Lee, is incredibly counterintuitive, that the older you get, the more adventurous you get. I love that as an insight. Why? That's not what I would have guessed, though. Like, why do you think that people are getting more adventurous as they get older?
Well, life, I'm in the midst of raising a family at the moment. I'm not the most adventurous dude right now. I do the same things time and time again, but I guarantee you, once Mackenzie, my daughter's off to university, am I going to go some places? And I'm going to be an old dude by then, and my wife's going to be older. We're going to be like, oh man, I want to go back to India. I've got to go to my whole mindset. So life happens, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Seth, as the youngin' on the call, like mortality, dude. Yeah. Like, it's mortality, you get a big brush with that. And it's like you're going everywhere.
I mean,
that's right.
My stereotype is the young people don't know about mortality. And so, of course, I'll do that trip through XYZ country. I can't possibly ever die. Nothing could ever go wrong. And then when you're older,
there's probably a dip, just like Lee said, there's a real sense of adventure in why not now, when you kind of after your family leaves and before.
Yeah, and there's a time thing here. There's a real time thing here where you're like, okay, I'm almost 60 myself, and you look at your next, probably have 30 good years of travel left, right? There's nothing that I will not do, nothing, and I'm probably, I'm healthy, I'm active, and I think many women are just like that. There's I don't really have a fear of going anywhere, and I just need someone to present me with the opportunities that I may not even be aware of.
Like, help me get there, help me do it.
And you're also more educated. You know more about the world. I was an idiot until you don't know anything. No, but you are adventurous, but adventurous to what? I didn't know that I could do this. I never thought I could be able to go to Morocco, or all I thought I could do a road trip across Australia at that time, or I go to New York. And you're so much smarter and more educated. I think that's another big part is people are curious, especially women over 50. There's this curiosity and wanting to educate themselves and see the world. I think that's another big shift in the cohorts of age. Early you don't know. Yeah, and you just do, you follow the trends. And as you get older, you do have a better sense of self. I want to see this. I want to learn. I am curious about X. And that is so different at the two sides of the coin. And, if I'm looking at my personal thing, I didn't know about the world at that younger age and what you can and can't do. So I think that education and curiosity multiplies itself as you get older.
I think the other thing as you age is you don't look at travel as a vacation necessarily. You look at travel as a way to discover something new about yourself. So, for women in particular, it could be that it's about building confidence or independence, or maybe you've been widowed and you need to go out and find out, can I do this on my own? So it is I think for me, I don't look at travel anymore as checking things off a bucket list. I look at it as, what am I going to learn about myself and learn about the world that I didn't know before, that makes me more grateful, more appreciative, more generous, more humble. Like, these are all the qualities that we learn through travel. And I think older women are more attuned to that.
I love that thought, Carolyn. What we are hearing is it's true. Older, wiser, smarter, kinder, all the great things about respecting our elders are all true, and they're true in travel as well. We're going to come back right after a word from our sponsors and continue this conversation about 55 plus women travelers with Carolyn and Lee. Thanks for listening. And we're back, continuing our conversation about one of the most valuable and yet still overlooked demographics in traveler. We're talking about older female travelers, many in the 55 plus cohort. I want to bring this conversation back to Lee at Intrepid. I think you've just announced, do I have this number right? Is it 55? A huge amount of new trips with this demographic in mind. Talk us through the process of how you decide what gets to be like a women's expedition or what gets to be a women's trip, which trips get that honor. And we'd also love to know some feedback from the customers, which is the most popular.
Well, at the moment, our Saudi Arabia trip is the most popular. It's selling. We just have to keep on putting more and more trips. And I think why that trip is so popular is it's all the things we've spoken about today. It's that sense of curiosity. It is the fact that they get to look and understand another culture through the lens of women, and they have experiences that enable them to do that. And yeah, we've seen really rapid growth in this space, particularly post-COVID. It's become a bigger and bigger focus. And we've launched trips all over the world, and that Saudi Arabia one continues to be the most popular, but India, Nepal, Morocco, and Turkey. And again, you can see what goes into making those trips is really where we think we can go to a country that's going to give a unique product experience and show the world through other women's eyes. So that's pretty much the premise, Seth. We need to go somewhere, and we can be confident that we can deliver a product and experience that is going to be unique for women to understand. And that doesn't mean we go everywhere. We're very specific about this, and we need to make sure that we can support locally owned women businesses as well. So they're probably the two big components that go into it is it going to be unique women experiences and gives that lens? And can we support women's only organizations to create these great products?
Why Saudi though? Why do you think Saudi is so popular?
Oh, I think Saudi's that particular couple of key things is timeliness. Yeah, it's starting to open up. We see this all over the world is when there's an opening up of a culture, an opening up of a country, that there is a sugar hit, because with that opening up becomes all the media gravitas. Yep, it's spoken about. Almost like that Greenland effect. As soon as Donald Trump started speaking about it, all the news media started to cover it. There's a self-fulfilling prophecy that happens in these things. As they get spoken about. So it's topical, timely. Two, there is this cultural difference. Yeah, and majority of our customers are coming from the Western lands. So you notice those trips, if there's this unique experience where as a woman I can go and see the world differently and challenge and be curious about what's going on and being able to understand that culture. So I think it's those two things combined that's seen that particular product become so popular.
Can I call out a certain irony in perception, if not
Please.
reality, which is that Saudi is not, I'm not saying this is true to our friends in Saudi, but there is definitely a widespread perception that Saudi is not a female friendly country. Do you think that
Well, I would think that's probably part of the allure.
do you think it's part of the allure?
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it was what coming with an operator is the safety part. Back to Caroline, and this is not to say this is all components, but there is something there about wanting to experience and understand that and see it for themselves. I think there is, particularly on this particular product, that sense of curiosity or titillation to try and see what it is behind that culture and what's happening. So, yeah, I think there is contradiction there, but I do think anywhere where it really challenges Western norms of women has seen these trips become garner more interest.
It makes total sense to me. So I was going to ask you, Carolyn, we're talking all about these expeditions, these trips, and I think one of the things we've seen is it really cuts through a lot of stereotypes. Like there's a lot of meat to these trips. Some marketing is better than no marketing, but marketing at its worst is pandering. What's the worst pandering that you've ever seen to this older woman demographic?
You're wanting me to call someone out, are you?
You don't have to, but if you wanted to name a name, we wouldn't hate it. We wouldn't hate it.
I think that, yeah, I mean, I think, so we have a women's travel director and we vet companies to join our women's travel directory. And so we have a few hundred companies in there now. Intrepid is in there, of course, but we get a lot of submissions from companies that say they want to, cater to women and women over 50 or solo travelers. And they obviously have never designed a trip for a solo traveler. They have no women on their website. They have no women. Like, it's just, so that's what we see a lot of. But more often than not, we see a willingness to want to adapt businesses to the women over 50 market. I think the gating factor in all of this, which is a bit of the elephant in the room when it comes to tours, is the single supplement, which, as women age, they're told, if you want to go on a tour, then we can partner you with somebody. Our research shows that women do not want to share a room. And I know myself, when I go on a tour, I do not want to share a room. I want to have that room to myself. I don't want to pay anything more to travel by myself. And the research said that 78% of women find that single supplement, that additional cost, whatever it is, to be a barrier to their solo travels. And when you think about it, you have a woman who is likely widowed, living alone, independent, separated, whatever it is, and lives her life that way. She's going on the trip to meet others and connect for sure, but she's already paying, her whole life for, what two people might carry. She's covering that on her own, and then to have to pay more on a trip. This is kind of the rub on some of the trips. So, I'm looking for that to change too. I'm looking for companies to think about the solo traveler first and foremost, not as a secondary thought. And there are plenty of companies that are around. There's solos, there's just you, there's companies that started for the solo traveler. So it's not like a foreign language. We can figure this out, right?
So speaking of money, what do you think about this idea that seniors are always looking for a discount? You think that's another misconception or misplaced idea that's kind of like lumping, the whole category of humans into one basket that's probably not even true?
Well, I think that is a stereotype, but the research again shows that the most affluent travelers are 65 to 74. So that's something to consider. It may not be who you think.
Senior premium instead of senior discount.
Yeah, right.
But who doesn't love a deal? Everyone loves a deal.
Yeah.
As a human, that's human. But I totally agree with Caroline. You all love a deal, but we're seeing disproportionate growth of higher end for this traveler. Yeah, they do want, as touched on a couple of times, a bit more comfort, a bit more solidarity. So there is a rise and a bit more appetite to spend more money. And, there is more available income in this generation than ever before, and they aren't afraid to spend it on travel. They may not be spending it elsewise. They may be a bit more frugal in other areas, but they're definitely comfortable in spending more on their holidays for pretty, niche or targeted experiences.
Yeah, I think the travel industry actually does itself a disservice by discounting things all the time. I think the opportunities to build brands and build relationships, and again, the research we've done shows that doesn't really work. Like, the discounting doesn't really work. You might get some people on a last minute sale, but you're not going to keep them over the long term as customers. So I think travel brands should be looking at the whole relationship, and that includes the before and after the trip and everything else. So it's not just the trip experience. It's, what are you doing before to build community? What are you doing after to build community and ambassadors and advocates? So I think, yeah,
that sound you just heard is revenue managers and property managers all across the world.
I know.
not in synchronously in agreement. Yes, I agree. I hear. Can I? Since we're on the topic of money, is this a fixed pool of money? Like, I'm curious about, in the world of pies, is this growing the pie, or is this taking a slice from the pie? Like, is this a trip that a 60-year-old woman would have taken with her daughter, or is this an incremental trip? How do we think about that, these solo trips?
I can speak from the business perspective. This has been one of the core areas for our growth as a company. So the whole market, we believe, is moving more into sustainable and experience-rich travel. I think that's a given. So we know that's happening. And we're seeing women in this demographic travel with us at a higher propensity than other cohorts of customers. So I would say, Seth, particularly in this example, it has been one of the things that has helped us grow over the last 3 or 4 years in helping create products and experiences that resonate with 50 plus women travelers. But that's uniquely us, an intrepid story, and it has been one of the things that has helped us grow. And a lot out of North America into new markets here, as we're seeing more women with more money not willing to wait around and wanting to have those unique experiences, and it's been a key driver for us.
Plus, you have invested so much effort in building your brand. I just want to say, like you have done very, very thoughtful things to build your brand. And when you look at, if you're a woman over 50 looking, oh, I want to go to this destination, for example, and then you have a sea of sameness, and everyone's just undercutting each other for the least cheapest, the cheapest place to go, then that's not brand building. And I'd like to see more travel companies invest in branding, not in marketing campaigns, if you will, without the brand backing it up. I think that would go a long way.
Oh, Carol, I could talk about that all day. That's my jam.
I'm sure you could. Yeah.
But the extended cut of this podcast will actually be Lee talking for a full 24 hours about that topic.
Do you think that there's a big glaring gap in the market here that no one has quite figured out yet, or one that you guys both of you would love to figure out, but you haven't just been able to crack?
I think there is, and it may not be a popular view, but I think there is when we are trying to get women to travel solo, often you'll say, oh, come with me on this trip. And so next thing you know, you've got a friend coming with you on your solo trip. Okay, fabulous. I would like to see just solo, just solo. Like, you're not inviting your friends. You're not, because the dynamic on a group, when you have people who already know each other on a group, it changes the dynamic of the group. I would like to see more companies say you can't come with your friends. You can't bring anybody you know, because the joy of solo travel is meeting people you do not know. And therefore, you are truly having a solo experience on a trip, even when you're on a trip. So I'd like to see that kind of offer where it's like, you can't bring anybody you know. Don't even, you're going here to be completely open to whatever, instead of having your buddy with you. I know that sounds weird, but
no, it makes perfect sense to me. I like it. Tough to enforce in the rules, but we've all been. I mean, not we've all been there. I've been there where I've been on a group trip, and I signed up for a tour, maybe not a multi-day tour, but a day tour. And there's 10 people, 8 are all solos, and there's one group of 2 or 3 or whatever, and they only talk to themselves the entire time. So
exactly.
I totally get that, exactly what you're saying there in terms of breaking down those barriers. That's an interesting thought.
Anything come to mind for you, Lee?
Um, I think the big one, and what we're seeing more of, is the intergenerational travel with women. And I think there's a big space there. One of the big things in the research that we've done, and also in Caroline's work, is the idea that women just don't want to be shown or represented in just one particular cohort, and that they will travel with friends of all ages and demographics, and that they will travel with their daughters' friends, their cousins, their granddaughters. So I think this idea of intergenerational travel, and not intergenerational travel just being for caravan parks or Disney, but there's intergenerational travel that happens outside of those particular things. And I think that is a space that will get explored more and more, and be more opportunities for people, and particularly women, to travel with different cohorts, and also to be represented in that way. That just because I'm 60, I only travel with people in that demographic. And I think the thing, hopefully, for this conversation is there's not just one type of 50 plus woman. There's many types. And I think that, a lot of them are wanting to be represented and have opportunities to be able to travel with lots of different generations.
And what do you,
I would agree.
what needs, I mean, this has sort of been the synthesis question, sort of been the whole point of this conversation. Is there any, for someone else listening, I mean, Intrepid sounds like you guys are really focused on this. Caroline, you do a lot of research on this. For someone who's listening, maybe not in the tour space, maybe an airline or a hotel operator or a car rental company, to welcome that cohort, that 50 plus cohort, what's something like an immediate thing that could be done to really, because we spent so much time talking about the value of this market. We've talked about how it really can be done really right. But let's say you're not going to redo your entire brand tomorrow. What's one thing that you could just do to make a difference?
I would invite your customers into the conversation and find a way to do, even if it's just a poll on a Facebook group or an email or something, because research doesn't have to be super expensive. It can be very simple, and we're starting to work with destinations now too, to think about how do I make my destination more welcoming to solo women, and that is more than just the country, if you will. That is about training people who work in restaurants and hotels, so that when you have a solo traveler come into a restaurant and ask for a table for one, they don't get seated in the back by the kitchen. So that's another area of opportunity, is just the behavior of people when you're traveling to that destination. And I think that's a real opportunity as well.
Can I tell you a true story? This is not 50 plus, but I went with my partner. She's not 50 plus, but we went to an all inclusive, and I couldn't make it to breakfast, and they would not. They would not talk to her. They wouldn't look at her because she was there by herself. It was insane. It was like she was invisible, and she had to wait like an hour for eggs. It was like, anyways. It
happens. We spend a lot of time teaching women how to walk out of a restaurant or ask for a better table. This is ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
That's cool. Yeah, I would agree with, like, when women lead, cool stuff happens. Yeah. And I think listening to women is super important. So it's not a one magic thing. Listen to women, have a conversation, hear what they've got to say, make some product changes, and speak to them, market. And from that, you'll learn, you'll test, you'll grow, and make changes and see how it works for your brand. Don't overcomplicate it. Listen, follow the lead, make a product, tell people about it. Keep making that loop better, faster, tighter. And, in 3, 4, 5 years' time, I'm sure you're going to have a compelling audience that's interested in what you do, and you've been able to grow some revenue.
And in 3, 5 years, they'll be where you are today, right, Lee?
Hopefully not as far as this, but yeah, sure. Yeah, no, definitely. We'd love that.
All right. So we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a rapid fire question round for the both of you. Ready?
Yeah.
This is going to be a challenge, okay? Because I'm going to limit the responses that you can give. All right.
In that case, who's going first? In that case, if we've got
Okay.
Caroline, you going first? I don't want.
Yeah, let's have Carolyn go first, and then you, Lee. Okay.
Okay.
Seth, let's alternate the questions. We're going to do them really fast.
You got it.
All right. All right. Let's go. One word this group wants to feel when they travel. Carolyn.
Understood and valued.
Lee.
Inclusive.
One brand, not your own, that you think is doing this really well.
Lululemon.
Well, it's funny. I was going to say the same, maybe for a different reason, which is because I think Lululemon has figured out how to adapt to life stages.
Yeah.
Because they're still a mass brand, but they
You
are
need to
with
look at
you.
Lululemon, Seth.
Yeah, but even Caroline's, but like just on the lifestyle, I get really stuff targeted to being a middle-aged dad now. You know, like, and I don't know I know when it happened, but they are nailing that thing. So yeah, I agree with that point distinctly.
Yeah, smart.
One myth about 50 plus women travelers that just needs to die already.
That we're not adventurous.
That they're cheap.
And finally, what's your personal favorite solo destination?
Mine is Spain.
Nepal.
Ooh.
All right. We'll wrap it there. Thank you for playing that rapid fire game. By the way, in the audience, if you like that, let us know and we can do more of those. But Carolyn and Lee, it's really been a pleasure having you on. This has been a really cool conversation for me, for all of us, and I think our audience learned a lot. So thanks for joining us and telling us about this interesting.
Thank you so much.
Market.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Skiff Travel Podcast. Wherever you're listening, please make sure to subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review. It really helps get the word out about us, our podcast, and make sure that we can still continue to bring it to you free of charge every week.
If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. That way you'll know every time we have a new episode.